can grab from Germany to here.
My plan B is to become a bike delivery guy because I really like to bike.
Okay, I think you would be the first bike delivery CTA, but there has to be a first for anything, Johan, so feel free.
Okay. So should we get started?
Yes, let me
preparing the
get
presentation?
started. Okay. So hi everyone. Welcome to the user group. Uh, let me present my slides. Okay, wait. I have to switch around. So if I get lost, please let me know. Okay. This one. Okay. Okay. You should see yourself or see some pictures of yourself. Oops, what happened here? Wait, let me see.
Yeah, something is there. I can see your screen.
Yeah, but okay, but it's not loading. Okay, I saw it. Oops, it died again. That's weird.
Yeah, something is showing up.
Okay, cool. But it's very slow. I'm not sure why. Angie, can you help me admit the?
Let me see whether I can meet.
Yeah. Can you admit them? Cannot.
No, I don't
Ah,
have that. Yeah.
Okay, for all those, please hold on. Let me try to admit them so that okay, wait. I need to stop sharing. Sorry. Okay. Any more people coming? Okay. Cool. I have 25 people. That's cool. I have 70, and then Debbie, I got 65. Okay, good. Okay, so let's do it this way. I still feel that we can. Oops, sorry. Some technical thing. I'm not very familiar with this Google thing. Okay, can you see my screen? Hi everyone, can you see my screen?
Yes, can.
Yes, I
Okay,
can.
good. Thanks everyone. Let me. I don't know. Am I blocking the? Is there anything blocking it? No, right?
No.
Okay. So okay. Welcome everybody for the our admin user group, Singapore admin user group. Okay. So today is 26 August. Okay. So let's talk about agenda today. It's a quick introduction on us as presenters. Then next slide, and then we'll go into the main topic whereby we learn about 7 things admins can learn from the developers, and I'll let the speakers later do what they need to do, and we will let them present. Okay. Okay. So a bit about us as a user group. We are pretty young. Okay. We just started off this admin user group in the beginning of January. I have Angie, who is from Cognigen. Angie, you want to say something?
Yeah, actually, it's that for me, it's that working with Cognizant and working on the program or project that's within the digital business platform, mostly on the robotic process automations tools. There's also is that the automations that involve for Salesforce, Civil, SAP, TIBCO, and so on and so forth. So is that the key skills here is that it's more on the digital business transformations and the project management skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Angie. So yeah, so Angie is in Cognigen. Okay, and my name is Desmond. Okay, I'm working in SIM Digital. So I'm in Singapore Institute of Management. Okay, in short. So I'm in the digital department itself. What we actually do is that we have just implemented Salesforce, and we are using Sales Cloud and Community Cloud in. So my role as a business analyst as is to implement as much functionality as there, and also to work with vendors to implement any enhancement that is on our platform itself. Okay, so that's about us. Okay, so next meetup, okay, is in October 2021. Okay, we have not found a date yet, so we'll keep people updated about a month before. Maybe in September you'll see me start posting on my LinkedIn and on some of my things that are there. Okay, so that's it. Okay, yeah. So let me without further ado. Okay, so let me send up to the two presenters that we have got, Johan and Lillian. They are very experienced people. You're going to hear a lot of things from them. Okay, I heard Johan's one for Salesforce Scheduler. It was very, very good. I personally find it very, very good. And I have a lot of insights from him when he was speaking as well. Lillian as well. She's taking her CTA. Just now we were just talking about it, and I think that she will definitely do a great job after getting a pass in that area as well. Okay, so without further ado, I will hand the time over to them.
All right, great, thank you.
Let me stop presenting.
Yes. Give me a second.
No problem.
A window.
Wow, I saw so many people start posting on what they ate.
Yeah, I saw a lot of good things, so getting hungry again myself. There's always room for a little extra.
Yes, there's always room.
Okay. Thanks all for dropping by. This is a topic Lilith and I are really passionate about. Both of us, we come from an put on the ring light. Hopefully it helps a little bit. We both come from an admin background, and both of us learned coding at some point. And I wouldn't say I'm actually any good of it, but there was quite a few things I learned, and what made me better at admin from learning to code. This is what we want to share today. And just a brief. Sorry. Can you still? Sorry.
Yeah, we lost the slides, Johan.
Yes. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. So, now we go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes. Let me start with Lilith. I mean, Salesforce architect to be. I think this is not true. Lilith is one of the most talented architects I know out there. Maybe just rivaled by Neha and Nera. She is as close to the CTA as you can be. I think it's just a couple of weeks ago away from becoming a CTA. I've known her for a year now, and she's always an inspiration. So if you ever have the chance to work together with Lilith, take the chance.
Thank you, Johan. That's really, really sweet. So, and yeah, Johan is also Salesforce architect. He's not just a architect. He is the CTA, which is, the pinnacle of architects that's out there. But actually, the most fun thing I think about Johan is the fact that he's really giving back, and he mentioned his passion for admin, and he's putting this into practice with the Admin's Helper, which is a whole bunch of different AppExchange tools, which can really help, your admins to, empower themselves. You mostly based, correct me if I'm wrong, Johan, on like very popular ideas, which have been in the community. We've all been there, right? You look for something and you think, shouldn't it be there? I would expect this makes so much sense. And then you find an idea that's super popular. It's been there for 10 years and Salesforce is not really budging. So that's where Johan steps in and he creates something to help and create those.
Yeah, my most popular app currently is an app which allows you to download a knowledge article as a PDF. Sounds simple enough. I think, yeah, it's my most popular app right now, because if you need that, you really need that. And it's sad that Salesforce doesn't provide that. Thanks, Lily, for the introduction. Before we get started, Lilith and I, we both support Refugee Force. This is a Dutch non-for-profit which trains refugees on Salesforce. I know you're not from Europe, but nevertheless, this is a great company to look out for. Either you support them directly by training refugees, or you hire refugees, because you all need resources in your daily job. We all know Salesforce resources are hard to get by. And even if you don't do that, maybe this is an idea for your local community to also start to train refugees and give them a chance into the Salesforce community. I think this is a great initiative, and maybe we can learn a lot from them. And this is our official disclaimer. So Lilith and I, we are both not with Salesforce. This is our personal opinion, our story, our way. Everyone is different. You know what I mean? Always check Salesforce for latest information. Ask your local developer for more information. So don't trust us on code. So if I ever offer you to write code for you, don't take it. Seriously. At least make sure that it works. But that out of the way. The first one is code formatting. As a developer, and maybe as a developer, it's really important to format your code. So because it's easier to write, it's easier to understand, and it's easier to adopt. And I think the admins should do the same. Code formatting can be done in many different ways. I will show one example later. So it means structure your code, use brackets cleanly, always follow the same style. So once you decided on one style in your team or yourself, always use the same style and use tabs for intent. I will show an example in the next one. So we have a simple validation rule, which is called the zip code of a German customer must be either empty or the length of 5. So what you see here on the screen, I use intents extensively. So what belongs together is on the same intent level. And I structure my brackets nicely. So hopefully each of you can read that validation rule easily. And it can be easily adopted and easily changed and debugged. Can you follow me so far? It's a little bit good. Okay, I take that as a yes, hopefully. The next one is naming conventions. Okay, we all learned that the hard way. Who of you has a lead page layout in their org which is called lead page new? Who has a flow which is called lead flow version 3? It's no fun to debug or to find out what that actually does. Always follow the same naming convention, the same as before. It's easy to write, it's easy to understand, it's easy to adopt. Define the naming convention in your team. There's no one way which is correct or wrong. There's many different ways of doing that. Make sure you define one in your team. Do code review. So if I deploy a page layout to your org, and by the way, I still love doing page layouts. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do. Make sure I follow your naming convention. And if you spot a page layout from somebody else, please call them out. This is really important because everybody has to follow it all the time. And clean as you go. If you find a page layout, it's just one example, which doesn't follow the coding guideline, just clean it. It doesn't hurt. It makes your life so much easier in the future. So examples. Page layouts. I personally like this one. So you start with the country code, then the object, then the process type. So DOI, as for Germany, DOI, lead direct sales. Most of the time, the process type is the record type. Or for record ticker flow, something like lead insert, or I personally would even go a step further, would say lead insert after create, before create. So make sure that it's easy to understand what the flow is supposed to do. Or for variables inflows, make it really easy to read, something like active customers. Don't call it accounts, because accounts means everything. It's an active customer, or it's a opportunities without product line items, something like that. So make it a speaking name. And with that already, naming conventions is done. Like the third one, it's the biggest one.
Yeah, maybe one thing, sorry, Johan, on the accounts for sure. I mean, everyone's been there, right? You have account list 1, 2, new, old, and then new, or new final, new, one more update, you know. So it's just, I really like this point. I think makes it so much easier, and because especially for flows, because they're so getting more and more powerful, but also more and more complex. So the way to make it easier, anything helps.
And the last one is test-driven development. Thank you, Lilith. This is really, thank you very much. So why do we do that? We want to reduce bugs and we want to simplify the implementation. So test-driven development is you document the tests and the outcome before you start building. You write either in code or just as a document, positive and negative tests, and you also test for bad situations. So you don't just test the happy flow. Developers do that in code, but I think the admins should do that at least in a written form. So I will show an example here again. For our validation rule from the beginning, I mean, there is not only one test to be done. There's like 6 different tests to be done. A German customer without a zip code, I expect no error. For a German customer with 5-number zip code, I expect no error. So I would write down these tests before I start building. And once I'm done building, I do these tests again and see if all the tests behave as expected. So I don't write the tests at the end, I write them before I start to build, because this makes sure what I build actually fulfills the requirement from our customer. Yes, it takes a little bit more time up front, but it pays out in the long run. And with that, my first 3 sections are done. Now Lily's gone.
Yeah. And actually solution design is very close to what you were mentioning, right? So what we want to do with the solution design is really we want to avoid any issues or delays during the implementation. So you want to really make sure that we know exactly why we are doing something, and what the possible questions could be that could arise, so you have them documented. And a part of that, the solution design, for me at least, usually also includes those tests with Johan, which Johan has covered, because I think that's really important. So how should you do it? Well, make sure you design before you build. That way you're not kind of like going off the bat, you're just really keeping focus on what is requested. You can always add later on, right? But make sure that you at least know what you're starting with. You document while you build, and you add comments and description, because someone else, some poor admin after you, will likely have to kind of sift through everything, and you want to make their life as easy as possible. So if we can look at an example here, you see that, for example, we have the user story. What should be done? Okay, what is the functionality that we're adding? So an account owner wants to be informed whenever a customer is defined as high value, for example. Then we have the tests, which were covered by Johan already. Then you have the profiles, which is very important, because, who should be contacted, and the same goes for validation rules. Maybe some people are exempt from this rule, maybe it counts for everyone. Really make it very clear who is included here. Add the design, make sure that it's, that you know exactly what to do. And then maybe also for future reference, it's easy if you put your components to deploy. If you have a reference, a kind of traceability in your documentation, if then later on you see something and you're really not sure, like, why is it the way it is, you can always do a control find, which is my favorite part about digitalization, is being able to find things, at the click of a button. So that makes your life so much easier after.
A tool to shout out here is probably Elements Cloud. I think all of you know it by now. Elements Cloud was built basically around that idea about the components to deploy, to make the life easier for a follow-up. A friend of mine just called me this morning, and because he had to debug 40 different case assignment rules, and none of them was documented. Why is there? And the customer says, we have case assignment rules? Never heard of that. Please document what you do and why you do it.
Yeah, completely agree. And it also leads to actually the version control. So we all know version control as something so typical for developers, right? You're always talking about it. Yeah, have to commit, push to the repo. Yeah, did you create a pull request for that? So
it sounds like magic, but it's actually just the three things.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, okay, yeah, sure, if you say so. But actually, it's really, really helpful, because what do you see there? You see who changed what. You see what was there before, so you have the difference, the versioning, right? And then you also can really use it to see where something is used. So you can use it to extract and commit elements. So that's, of course, the technical side, but you can also use it as part of Jira. So if you have a very well-connected lifecycle management application tooling, then you can really use, for example, on the Jira ticket, see which components were changed, which makes it a lot easier again later on if you want to know, okay, what was changed and why, the ever occurring question on why is it the way it is. And you can very easily search your source, which sounds like, again, a bit of technical mumbo jumbo, but it's really, really easy. And the next slide shows you how easy it is. So you have this kind of search bar at the top, and by default it switches to files, but you can change it to code. And then if you just put, like, for example, a record type name, the developer name from a record type, or you put maybe an API name of a field, here it will really show you everywhere that it's mentioned. You also have the where is it used tooling, of course, from Salesforce itself, but it doesn't include everything. And here it really, really does. For example, if it's mentioned somewhere in an Apex class, in a flow, whatever, it will show up here. So this is so powerful. And usually when someone is coming to me with a requirement like, hey, we want to change the functionality around this or that, this is one of the first things I do, like just check. Okay, where is this used? What could be impacted? And it's really good to find those hiccups before you run into the errors. So yeah, one of my favorite tools.
The last one.
Oh yeah, and I also really, really love Sokol. So that is a search language. So this is what you use to find, for example, okay, give me all the accounts with record type this or that. It's this query language used by Salesforce. And why would you use it? Well, it goes, again, beyond setup and reports to find elements in your configuration or in your records. It's really, really easy. because you also have access to technical objects. You have access to the share table, to the list views, to the email messages, which makes it a lot easier than if you have to go through, the configuration, because you don't always have everything visible in the UI. And you can very easily extract it by, for example, going with Workbench, which might be a common known tool. It's really, really great. So you can use it, as I mentioned, via Workbench or via the developer console. If you have any question about, okay, is this accessible, or how should I look for that, you can very easily find everything in the developer guide. And the structure that you would usually use is select, and then the fields you want to get from the object that you want to get where, and there you put the criteria. So I will show you an example in a moment, but yeah, there it is. So one of the things you can do now is very easily go to the share tables. You know that nearly every object has a share table. So for account, if I want to know this particular record, this account ID, who is it shared to and why? Well, I can just go to the share table. Now, I know that Salesforce added the share button, so now you can more easily see it in Lightning as well. But you can also use it, for example, I don't know if you face this issue, but I know I have in the past quite frequently. People have started creating list views, and now there's a whole bunch of list views, and they just shared it to any users. So also external users can see this, and I want to know who I want to have a stern talking to. So I want to know who created them, but you cannot always see that easily in the UI, who created this list view. So you can here actually also query those, see when it was created and by whom. So you know, okay, I have to talk about best practice and maybe remove even this permission from certain users. And then we have one final one. Go ahead, Johan, you want to cover this one?
No, but I'm so excited.
Okay, so the last one that we have is think like a machine, which is a bit, we're not saying that developers are machines, although, some do run on Red Bull, but the reason why this is really important is because when you're talking to business, which is usually what we as admins or architects or business analysts do, is we talk a whole lot of business, and then they tell us, okay, so it should work like that. And it makes sense with that one sentence. But then if you start to think about, all the paths, the one that Johan showed again for the errors, what can really go wrong? How should it actually go? And what should happen in case of errors? This is really, it becomes more and more, complex. It's something that's super easy. Like, so if this is urgent, send a notification to the head of marketing. When you start thinking like a machine, you're just okay, who is the head of marketing? I don't know. I'm a machine. I have no idea of who your organization is. So you have to think in yes or no. It has to be very clear and complete. And you have to include this error handling, and don't assume. A machine does not assume. If it doesn't know, it will either do not what you want it to, or it will throw an error, which is also not what you want it to do. So if you look at an example that we have here is, for example, if in a flow, I don't know if you know that you can actually have these fault lines. So when you're creating it, always think about what can go wrong. Okay, so I'm getting the records, but something goes wrong there. I'm trying to find records, they're not there, or there's just something going wrong in this query of mine. I don't know, I really messed up. Something's going wrong. You can rely on the standard Salesforce error, but that's very, let's say, not that intuitive for the end user. They get this red bar and then you get emails, but for them, it's like, okay, not really clear. So maybe you want to take a bit more action. Maybe you want to show a custom error message like, hey, don't worry, send this error that you got to this particular email address, will help you. Or maybe you will already want to send it to maybe a business key user or whatever. All of this you can very easily do with flows if you use the fault lines. And again, you're thinking like a machine because you're thinking what can go wrong and what should I do then?
With that, we already conclude our 7 things admin can learn from developers. I will stop the presentation. I'm super curious about all your feedback, and sure, Lilith as well. We did this presentation already once before, and we got so much great ideas and feedback from all of you. I hope the same happens today.
Okay, Johan, that was really, really good, and it was really, really short, and it's very fast. I guess all the users here will have questions. So we have a lot of time. So is there anybody pertaining who want to speak want to ask anything about with Johan and Lilian on this 7 thing? Okay, if you don't, I'm looking at the chat itself. I'm also opening the chat. So someone was asking about Jira. Is it that you only can use Jira itself? Is there other tools that you can use? Because I think Lisa says she's very new to Jira, so she's very stressful with the sweat thing that is there. Maybe Johan and Lilian, you want to speak on that as well? Do you have any recommendation for her?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I love Jira. I like seriously love Jira. But there are other tools out there for sure. Don't worry. Like you have Azure DevOps Suite, which is also a tool. It's also very extensive, and the good thing is they have a lot of commonalities. So you can definitely use others. You also have like the less complex, but maybe less advanced tooling such as Trello or Asana. It really depends, what scale are you using, what other tooling are you using. But I love Jira because it allows you really a very good traceability, and you have so many macros in Confluence, for example, to really all show you very dynamically, all the user stories linked to a particular epic. And that's, I really love it.
I would follow up there. I started to reject customers who use Trello.
Oof. That's harsh.
Trello is kind of good for a startup to get started, but I agree with Jira and Azure are the go-to standard. Copado is definitely an amazing tool. There's a couple of others out there as well. Visual Studio, yes, Visual Studio is an amazing tool. Maybe I share my screen because there's two questions coming up. Which I can share with my screen. The first one, what do I use for solution design? So, yes, I know there are great tools out there like Lucidchart. You can do complex stuff. I personally still use PowerPoint for two reasons. The first one is everybody can open it. It's because a Lucidchart is not really useful for business people. It sounds a little bit weird because the second one is if my solution is too complex to not fit on a PowerPoint, the solution itself is too complex. I have to break it up. So you see, this is a complex system landscape for a B2B implementation, for a B2B commerce implementation. I still can fit it on a PowerPoint by finding the right level of detail. And I found that Lucidcharts often, in my experience, become too complex too easily and not really readable anymore. I mean, then I would like to have a little bit feedback there later. And the second is about Visual Studio Code. Absolutely, I use it all the time. And the good thing is you see it up here, it gives me all these great commands, because I don't know how to use the command console, I just click create branch, and then I give the branch a name, and then it does what it does. So Visual Studio Code is the tool to go for. So Lily, what's your thought on PowerPoint versus Lucidchart?
Yeah, well, I actually have a third option, and again, it's built or very, very compatible with Confluence. So I love to work with Draw.io. It's similar to Lucidchart, but because it's so very well embedded in Confluence, you can really embed it again in the communication and documentation that you have. And that's something that I really love because I love diagrams. I think if your process is complex, why not just create a diagram to really show what will happen? Because for business, this really helps them also visualize. For example, an approval process is a standard one that I will put in just a diagram so that we can really make sure we're on the same page, guys. I don't want to rewrite it or, reconfigure it 3 times. So I love Draw.io. That's my go-to.
Cool. I think someone says Salesforce diagram is going to be added to the chart.
Somebody just created an account in Trello. It's a great tool to get started. It's it looks nice. Jira and Confluence looks horrible.
It's much prettier. Yeah, for sure. And you have to do less setup. Everything is out of the box. With Jira, you have to do some configuration to get it where you want to be. And then sometimes you have people really going nuts. Oh, I can automate all of this. And then as a developer, sometimes I moved it to do and it reassigned to someone else. What is happening? So be careful with what you automate and make sure you explain it also to your team, right?
I think that's a good gauge of what we actually looking at. I just another question that came up to me, because when you are talking about the naming convention, I mean on that slide itself, I think most of us find it really very difficult to even in the naming convention in flows. If my flow is a very complex flow, when I start drawing it, I sub flows that is within it, I kind of get lost in doing that as well. So what is your recommendation? Because sometimes I'm like there are leases and there are records, there are collections, and you kind of get lost in what you're actually trying to name it, even based on the one that you have just so-called simplified and put it in. Maybe either Johan or David want to explain on that. Because I personally
define your naming convention before you start
okay.
as a team together, and then it becomes a practice. Not something. It takes some time to get used to naming convention, to learn really how to properly name. It's not something you learn out of the box. What do you think, Lily?
I think my question is more on saying, like, you gave examples like saying action, component, and then the list, correct? I think that was one of your slides that you actually put up. Okay. But what if I have a very how to say, this one is a rich text file whereby I have some variables that in the formulas itself I go and compute certain.
Okay.
Yeah. So
maybe I can show my code.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can show my code again, because code becomes pretty complex pretty fast. You know what I mean? You see there's hundreds of lines of code in different files. So just to give you an idea how I would do, I would say, for example, this method has a very specific name: get local resource URL footer center. So my names are very speaking. So first, usually I start with a verb like fetch local resource URL.
Okay.
So yes, the names become really long, but they become very speaking. Does it make sense? So if we go up here again, current record ID, security decision, field set name.
Okay.
Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does make pretty good sense. So sidetrack a bit about the naming convention. I understand that when we actually code, when we create a simple variable in Salesforce, as in whether it's a normal, we try to keep the name short, because once it gets long, right, your formulas will hit the 5,000 limits, and then you're panicking and you're like, what the shit happened and why?
Nah, but don't do that. Don't do that. Don't optimize for the worst case. Optimize for readability. If your formula hits the 5,000 limit, you should use a different solution anyway.
Okay, I get what you. But
because the formula already. This is.
What do you
so maybe come back. Maybe come back to my code example here. Lily, you speak in, but you see most of my methods. Which is basically the same as a formula.
It's not out yet, Johan. Maybe.
Are super short.
Johan is not out yet. He's still presenting. I don't know the rest of you. Can you all see the screen?
Keep everything as simple as possible. And I know it's amazing that we can write these amazing frameworks. So I keep stuff as simple and as short as possible. And the same should be true for formulas. What do you think?
I agree, and for formulas for sure, and also maybe think about if it's a very complex one, can we maybe have sub formulas that we use there? Yeah. So I mean, always trying to break down where possible, because formulas, I love them, but sometimes they're very complex. I also wanted to add one thing, Joey. Thank you so much for sharing that link to the naming conventions. I think it's a very good resource, so definitely go and have a look. And then I think there's always going to be a situation. Every documentation convention is likely a living document, right? There's always going to be this situation where you feel like, okay, I'm not sure how we should go about this, or maybe there's no feature or something else. You can always just gather your team again and ask, okay, so what do you guys think? How should I name it? Just so you have the consensus again and it makes sense for everyone. And then you can add it. It's a living document in my regard. I also saw a question about the SOCL for list views.
Yeah, you say, will you repeat once again on Sockle for this view?
Yeah. So the way that I would write, I will post it later, an example, right? But the way that I usually write it is just on list views, you have certain fields such as created by, but also, for example, the S-object, I think it's called S-object type, the field. So you can use it to query all list views, which you can see, very important. And then you can, for example, say, show me all the list views on order. And then you can see, okay, it was created by them. You also see, for example, the developer names, which should already give you an indication whether it was written by a business user or by you, again, using the naming conventions. And there it makes it a lot easier to see. So I will share an example, no worries. But yeah, that's how I use it. And I really, really love it, to be honest. So I will give an example. You can come back to me later.
Okay, sure. Wow. We just have
Thanks.
a
Nice.
Well, great. Thank you so much. So I don't have to worry about that.
What can developers learn from admins? We actually talked about this for a long. We have a whole presentation. So if any of you gives you the chance to talk about that, Lilith and I would love to do that. We didn't get any chance to do that yet. So Catherine, if you find a user group or something, or a team, we are happy to talk about that as well. But developers can learn from admins.
Johan.
A lot. The answer is a lot.
I can schedule the next one, Johan. It's fine. I'm okay.
Yeah. And Joe, if you don't have a naming convention yet, you can start with the post there. It's amazing, and start somewhere. Like, don't overcomplicate it. This is what my last technical team lead told me. This was amazing of him. It was said, you know what? Everything is better than nothing. Instead of discussing for weeks over the naming convention, just decide one, go with it. Maybe you change it later, but at least you have something going.
Okay. Okay. Understand.
Yeah, Johan, I have a doubt. So when you're talking about the version control, so what is the version control tool that you use basically for, the Salesforce ecosystem? Like, is it GitHub SVN, or is there something specific tool for Salesforce itself?
There is, under the hood, most of them use either Bitbucket, GitHub, or Amazon.
Okay.
But this, if you are, there is a couple of tools which make it really easy, like Copado. But I would say I can share my screen again. It's not too complex for an admin to learn that as well, because you only need like I think I need to remember like 4 or 5 commands. That's it, kind of. Correct?
Yeah, and most of them have a very good user interface. Usually it's just a website you can go to. For example, I use Bitbucket a lot, and it's just a website you can go to. It has your entire repository metadata structure. So your org's metadata structure is in your repository, which means that if you want to see, okay, I need to have an idea of which fields are in a certain field set, or, I really want to see certain information, or anything is there, and that's a good thing, right? So you can just go there. I can try to give an example, but I don't know whether on this computer I have too many goodies. So I don't know. Do you have a version control system open, Johan?
Yes, I have one open.
So if you could maybe like show that, if that's of interest to you guys, of course, we don't want to hijack.
So it's actually, it's my private one. So let's say we go to the product knowledge article. We said this is the latest one I worked on. So this is all the code I have here. I can go in and see this is all my Salesforce code I need for that. And this is the most important part. So I have 26 pull requests. So I added the landscape mode support. So I am the only person who works on that code. So I don't actually, in theory, I wouldn't need it, but it's still really helpful. You see, I always use proper edit configurable logo support, or there was somebody, I had a fix with an issue, fixed file name issue with commas. So I click into it, and then I see immediately when I click files changed, which files did I change? This is, this is what I changed. This was what before. This is what it was after. This is just amazing. You see, And this makes all the difference because suddenly you know exactly what happened, when happened, and who did it, and why. Because I also include like comments in my commits. Does this make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And one more doubt. So, whenever you have, like sensitive data, that you don't want everyone to see, but only limited set of people to see. So, how can you actually restrict that on the version control system? Like, is there any way that you can restrict people access to view the data or something like that?
You should not have sensitive data in your version control system in the first place, I would say, if it's customer facing data, because it's a different set. But yes, you have extensive security controls in your version control. It's enterprise. These tools are enterprise grade. Let's call it this way. All of
Okay.
them. So they
Yeah,
are
thank
used
you, John.
by Google, Amazon. Also, not Amazon. Amazon uses their own, but yeah.
Yeah, but maybe one more thing on that one. So if you're talking about repository and sensitive data, they were likely talking about maybe like credentials or something, because that's what you might have in your repository. Even then, not best practice, but still, you really have to think about it in a smart way. Anything else that you're talking about, like data, records, accounts, those things, those are not part of your repository. Those are records, that's data, and your repository is metadata, your org structure. I hope it's clear, but it's, there's a difference.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great, thanks.
So to the group back, what's the thing you're gonna implement in your daily work tomorrow from the 7 things we said today? What's the one thing you would take away? Angie, you took notes. Maybe something you found particularly something.
For me, is that I find that the solutions design is something that I really want to take on, because it is something that is really lack in my organizations, I could say today. And then, yeah, this is the thing that I would, like I say, is that to implement it in my organizations. But the thing is that, yeah, beside that, I would like to know that, if there is any kind of documentations or best practice over there that can help me to to lay out all those the solutions design that can put all my the design in place.
Start anywhere. Do whatever feels natural for you right now. So do whatever feels natural for you and again learn later. I did it the other way around. I tried to learn first and I got super confused because it's a really complex topic, but anything you can start today is better than you did before. And don't wait for your company. Start solution designing for yourself.
Yeah, because it really helps you find the gaps. And one of the things that also is kind of related there, for example, in my solution design, I am in the fortunate situation, or yeah, I consider it fortunate anyway. I have to write the solution designs, but then I have a great team that actually does it. So I just need to make sure it's clear enough for them. But one of my pet peeves is there is such a thing in Salesforce as a description field. So use it. Like it's again part of your documentation, like use the descriptions. It will make it so much easier for everyone else. But this is something that is usually not that easy for the developer to come up with, because they might not have the full scope of why exactly are you adding this field. Yes, this is a number field and it's called revenue, but you may have like 3 of those or similar names, right? So what is the distinction? So that is something that I always provide to input on, because it gives more of a really business or functional meaning behind something. So that's the level that I go to in my solution designs, because I feel like it adds value. I don't say it's something that you have to do, but yeah, you will find your own flavor for sure.
Johan, just another question on getting started for never afraid to try it out. I think for most of us who are in the organization, they're always asking about certain why are you doing this? Can you justify why you are doing that? I think it's not that we don't want to try, but when we start putting certain maybe conversion, they will question, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Have you then it starts like a very complex model, and we don't really know which way to really go ahead. I do agree with you, as I say, the first step is important. I think the question of the subsequent steps, whereby what if this happens and what if I achieve this, how where if the naming convention seems to be not working for me. So what happens on that? Do we change it, or do we revamp all the naming convention, or how should we move forward? So called like make a blunder on the first step that we have.
I'm personally not a big fan of changing it too much, because the way that that we have it, for example, is for one of the customers, we have different work streams in the same org, and we identify what is part of which work stream in part of the naming conventions as well. The fields, for example, if they start with a certain abbreviation, then it's for work stream 1 or work stream 2. So you don't want to change halfway the project your mind on, we'll use it slightly differently because those are API names.
Yeah.
We don't want to mess with API names, right? So it depends on what exactly you're changing. But I think, you can always kind of enhance it, but I wouldn't change radically too much unless, if it's just a label, you're more flexible. But API names, yeah, we all know how tricky those are. We don't want to mess with those.
If you have GitHub and search, it's actually not that hard. Let's be honest. If I change the API name of something, I did this like 100,000s of times because I like cleaning up. You just open GitHub, search for the API name, see where it's mentioned. Most of the API names are not mentioned anyway, so you can safely change them. If they are mentioned, of course, check your integrations. Don't forget about them. But then that's it, kind of. So I think one of the biggest mistakes is we focus on the hard pieces. Let's say I want to create my API names. 99 of them, of 100, are easy to change. Focus on these 99. Don't say we don't even start because one of them is really hard to change. Yes, then the one of them which is really hard, ignore it for now. Don't change this one. Focus on the easy parts. Does this?
Yeah, thanks. I think that is a good insight. Okay, we are at 8:05 or 8:05 right now. Is there any last questions that everybody wants to raise, or is there anything that you want to say, or to ask Johan and Greg? I'll open up the floor. Anyone else? Want to ask? I thank Joey for all the input. It's great. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joey. I mean, I think some of those I will check myself for sure.
Yeah, me too. I already opened all the links.
Well, me too. Some I knew already, but a lot I didn't. So
Happy so I
There's so much there in the community, right? So
yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I'll think that there's no more last question. Let me just go down to the quiz. Okay, so I will take control back. Let me start my quiz.
someone has some great music playing.
Yes, that's yes.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
I came in.
Okay, I heard some laughter. Well, and some of you have finished. Some of you are still at question 1.
Did we make him too tough?
I have no idea.
Hang on, I have a cannon now. Lily, where are you?
I know I
Looking deep.
I didn't play. I figured, it's not fair. I created a question.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I listen to your part of the presentation as well.
Are you all playing or? Okay, because the question has to be all finished by everyone, then I can show the results.
Lisa is on her way. She's still playing.
SK just came
No
in.
worries, Lisa.
SK is moving. SK, you are there. That's good. You are listening. Lisa and Until, are you all? Oh, suddenly Sam came in. Oops. Okay. Okay, let's wait for a little while. For those who finish, please hold on for a while. Yeah. Okay, SK is done. Sam. Where's Sam? Sam done. Okay. Oh, Lisa is done. Ankhil, are you done? Ankhil, are you still thinking of the questions or? Okay,
I'm not sure they were so tough. I think.
I also think so. But Hari just came in and start doing another set of questions. Okay, I tell you what. I shall end it because I think. Oh, Hari's okay. Suddenly everyone starts. Okay. Hey, everyone, you don't need to Google the answers. So you don't really need that long, you know. Okay. Okay, I would think that everyone has finished, so I shall stop the quiz. Okay, I'll stop the quiz, everyone. Okay, let's look at who's the win. Oh, oh shit! I shouldn't have done that. Oh shit! Bad. I did something bad.
It's
Oh,
okay.
give me a while. Let me. Sorry, everyone. I don't know what I shouldn't have pressed the stop quiz because if I've done that, it would. I'm not sure
folder.
Yeah. So how do I?
Do we want to do a random generator? I scroll, Lily says stop.
Sorry.
Should we do just random?
Yeah.
I scroll and Lily just says stop. I scroll with my mouse and Lily says stop.
Stop.
Okay. Rasha Chandra.
Okay.
Congratulations, Rasha. Who's Rasha?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks. For helping. Johan. Could you do that for another two more?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Lilith, you do the stop.
Stop.
Okay. Bharat Umadi.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Who's
That was pure. That was pure luck. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay.
So
And one more time.
And stop.
Okay. Lisa Lee.
Lisa Lee. Okay. Okay.
Congratulations.
So the three person, Lisa Lee. Sorry, please do not. Sorry, I gave you guys the wrong person. I am so sorry. Okay, so Lisa Lee, Chakra. Who is it? Sorry, Johan. What's the other two? I'm pretty bad at names.
Lisa Lee.
Bharat Tumadi.
Barrett.
Yeah, Bharat Tumadi.
Okay, Bharat
And
Kumari.
Rasha Chandra.
Okay, Rasha Chandra. Okay, so can y'all please ping my email and tell me that you guys have won the prize, and then I will send you the certificate vouchers. Okay, you can use. Okay. So sorry for
Sure,
the.
sure.
So I am so sorry for the mix-up on my game. I didn't know that because normally we should finish the game and then you will pop up the winners, but I went to stop the game, so it has some technical issues. I am so sorry. But thank you everybody. I hope you had a fruitful time. I hope you have a fruitful time with us. And thank you, Johan. Thank you, Lilian, for the inputs. And I think I will definitely get them to speak again, which was suggested by Catherine about the topic of what can you learn from admins. I hope there'll be more than 7. I hope there will be 10 or 15, then we can actually slowly discuss and work. Okay. Thank you everyone, and please stay safe. I know, and we shall meet again in October.
Hello, please.
Thank you. Have a good time.
Thank you so
Sorry?
much.
Marsha, you say something, is it?
Yeah, I seen some different names in the leaderboard, but the prize is given to someone else.
No, you just ping me. For those who have the 3% who have won, just ping me.
Lisa Lee, Bharat, and Rasha Chandra.
Yeah. So those 3 that have won, just give me a ping and on my email, and I will shortly will send the vouchers to you. Okay. So congratulations everybody for those who won, and I hope that you have this fruitful event as well.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much, Desmond. Happy to be here, and we'll see
Sir,
you next time,
one second,
apparently. Bye.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks Joey for the help.
Hello.
Yeah, sure.
Wait,
Yeah,
please.
great job. First time joining here.
Hey,
Marsha,
Yes.
is it?
sorry. I had one question. I'm an admin, and I want some guidelines from the CTA that what should be my next step for being an architect.
Okay, so I think there's a path that they need to actually take, right, Joey? I'm not very sure of that. Do you have any?
Sorry, what's the question again? Could you repeat that? As an admin, what's the path to become a CTA? Is that correct?
Yeah, I want to be an architect, but right now I'm an admin. So what should be my next steps for being a very good architect from the experience?
Um,
point?
Sure.
Yeah.
From my perspective, it's like a chicken and egg problem, right? Sometimes you don't get the opportunities to become an architect unless you have the necessary skills, right? What I'd encourage you to do is look at the trailhead. Basically, if you look at the credentials, looking at the architect path, there's a pyramid, right? And then from there, I would encourage you, if you have a chance, to take all of those certifications, starting. It depends on you where your experience is. It could be on the left side or the right side of the pyramid. It might help if you have time. I can actually share my screen.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can.
So if you go to Trailhead and then under certifications, there's architect, right?
Right.
There's a pyramid here. Basically, CTA is at the top, but this is where you could actually start studying in terms of how to get these 4 certification and also these 3. The thing is, once you have the certifications, there's a much bigger chance for you to get architect type of work. If you don't have those yet, you'd have to depend on your employer, right? If I were in your place, that's where I would start. Unless, yeah, there's any others that want to chime in.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Masa, for the question. Thanks, Joey. Basically,
Sure.
I'm not an architect, so I don't really know
Yeah.
how to make that.
Yeah, because
for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
right. You'd want to control what you can control, right? Sometimes you can't really depends on your employer what projects you get, right? So if you can prepare yourself going through the trailhead, getting certifications, you'll get a lot more chances of let's say whether it's in your current employer or a different employer, there's a lot more chances for you in terms of getting an architect type of job, right? So that's what I'd encourage everyone.
Thanks. And one thing, I also seen myself in the leaderboard for the today's quiz, but
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Masa. So I make a mistake on the thing itself. I am so sorry. Yeah.
so one of the certification from the pyramid I missed just today.
Okay. I am so sorry.
No issues. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
It was really informative session
Thank you.
for all of us.
Thank you
Have
for
a good
attending.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
Good job,
Desmond, for the
Desmond.
session. Like,
No
I've been attending many community sessions like from the past 6 months, but I haven't found any session, this much fun and interactive it's not like a single way communication, it's like both ways. So it's like so fun and productive at the same time. Thank you so much for the session.
No problem.
And yeah, looking forward to connect with you all, especially Joe, one of the Salesforce MVP that I actually, got inspired from to get into the ecosystem. Looking to connect with you everyone on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Yeah, have a nice day.
Sure.
Thank you. Have a nice
All right.
day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
All right. See you. Bye bye.
Thanks,
See you.
Joey.
Bye.
All right.
Bye bye.
See you.